All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of our Packers weekly discussion on Blake and Vish Sports. So I'm Blake, joined with Nick. We have another week, some more free agency news for the Packers, and the first bit that we can start with is Kevin King. So he got signed on a one-year deal. Overall, it's a $5 million deal, but the way it's structured is pretty interesting. So in 2021, his cap hit's a little under $2 million, so pretty cheap. 2022, the cap hits $3 million, and then 2023 to 2025, it's $750,000. So the main reason for that was to spread the cap hit a little over, as you know, our team is like pretty close to not being under the cap. So, Nick, what were your initial thoughts and reactions to the Packers re-signing Kevin King to this cheap deal?
So, obviously, right after the playoffs, I did not like Kevin King like a lot of other Packers fans.
Yeah.
But after a while, I was like, all right, no one's talking about him. If we bring him back, it won't be too expensive. And yeah, he's not too expensive. $5 million is not a lot for a cornerback, too. And this last year, he was injured a little bit. He was a little rough. He had an average season, but 2 years ago, back in 2019, he had 5 interceptions. He had a good year. And I think he can get back to that if he's fully healthy. The problem is staying healthy, but I do overall like bringing him back. He knows the defense. Well, we're going to have a new coordinator, but he knows the guys who are on defense. They all love him. He
Yeah.
loves all the guys. After the game, they're all standing up for him. So, yeah, I do like now that we brought King back.
Okay, so yeah, I think I'm with you on that, and I was saying this earlier. Like, I think we do need to bring him back. Just the fact that like he really isn't the best. He's had some pretty memorable moments of being really really bad, and obviously it doesn't help when he's left on an island with a back injury against the Buccaneers receiving core, and
Yep.
I think it's definitely obviously left people a sour taste in their mouth, but just to put it into perspective, like the last few years, he's been a lot healthier. His first year, he only started 5 games. The next year, he only started 6 games. 2019, the year he had 5 interceptions and was a lot better, started 14 games, and then this past year started 11. So, like, availability's really been his main issue. Like, he's really athletic, obviously, tall, amazing in the red zone. But I think the main reason why I like this a lot is the contract is very, very reasonable. Like Shaquille Griffin got paid $14 million. Adoree Jackson got paid $13 million. A lot of the other corners that have been signed for like over $10 million. Now, you could argue that those guys are better than Kevin King. I think that's fair to say. But just the value of 1-year deal, $5 million only, like that's
And it's not even going to hit us for $5 million this year, which I like.
Exactly, yeah. So like our team's pretty cap pressed right now. So like only a little less than 2 million for like an average second corner. Like sign me up for that. Like I'm totally down, and I totally understand like why they had to, or why they did, and why they had to. Like if they didn't, besides Jair, all we would have is really Josh Jackson, who he showed flashes of being all right this year, but it doesn't look like our team has too much trust in him. Shannon Sullivan plays the slot. And then besides that, it would be like Kadar Holman, who was a 7th-round draft pick, or maybe not 7th, but he was a late-round draft pick. So if we didn't have Kevin King, our options would be we have to sign one in free agency anyway, or we would pretty much be forced to draft one.
And start them right away.
Exactly. And, I mean, if you think about our track record with drafting secondary players, besides Jair, it really hasn't been that good. We drafted Demarius Randall in the first round. Tried to switch him.
Clinton Dix was good.
Yeah, he was definitely good a few years. Like he made a Pro Bowl and stuff. So I wouldn't say that's a miss. But Quentin Rollins, drafted him in the second round. It wasn't that great. Josh Jackson hasn't performed to the level. Josh Jones, the safety, never really panned out. Like we haven't had much success. I'd say 2 of our guys have been really, really good in the last 5 years. So I think from that perspective, like it had to be done. So are you comfortable with our secondary now that we have the band back together, or would you like to see us make other moves?
Well, I mean, it's the exact same secondary basically, and
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm comfortable, but I'm not upset. I
Okay.
definitely still want one more guy, like one more strong guy. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but also you're saying earlier, like Kevin King is tall. Just for you guys who don't know, he's 6'3", which is very, very tall
Yeah.
for a cornerback, and that's very good for going up against a lot of wide receivers who are all over 6 foot mostly. So yeah, I do think our secondary still needs another guy who's the guy to help Alexander. But if this is what we go in the season with, then I won't be disappointed because we know what they're capable of. We know how far they can get us, and that's pretty far.
Yeah. And to that point, like all the other guys like Smash Amos, Savage, Jair, they really wanted King back. Like they're
They did.
obviously have a good like the locker room's really good with all them
Yeah,
together.
no one is upset that he's back. That's like in the Packers system. No one's
Yeah.
like, really, this guy? Like they forgive him. They're
Yeah.
this bro.
Yeah. Definitely. And then here's the thing too. If they didn't re-sign him and Jair got injured, our secondary would actually be horrible. Like
It would be over.
we would have a lot of people that have no experience. And that's an issue. And even if Kevin King isn't the best, he does have experience. He's played in a similar situation and he does have chemistry with the other secondary guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on maybe like if a guy that fell, they wanted to draft him like in the first round, or even second or third round. If there's a corner that they really like, and there seems to be a lot of corners in this draft that are rated pretty
Capable.
highly as either first round guys or second round guys. So if they wanted to go in that way, like the edge class, for example, is maybe not the best. So that's where you wouldn't want to maybe draft a guy high, but like for cornerbacks, there's a lot of pretty good ones that are like day two guys that we could
There
definitely
are.
be getting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that covers Kevin King. I think overall consensus, happy he's back.
We're glad to have him back.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have him back, honestly. Like he's been getting slandered a lot. He didn't play his best game against Tom and Scotty Miller in particular, but he's a solid cornerback too, and he's pretty cheap. So moving on now to the other position of need, or a position that we believe is a need, that's receiver. So right now we have Devontae Adams. Obviously, he's really good. Allen Lazard's a pretty good receiver too. Could use an upgrade. Then at 3 we have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Devin Funchess is somewhere in the mix, depending on how he comes back. Equinemius St. Brown's another name. Malik Taylor. Those guys didn't really see the field as much, but receiver's definitely not out of the question for drafting. So here's one guy that I know you like as a Boilermaker. He had a really good pro day. Ran under a 4.340, which is insane. I feel like that's more common nowadays than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
He had really other good measurables for like the Spark test, so that just measures like you against all the other people at the combine. He was top of the class. And the Packers are meeting with him virtually, so clearly there's an interest. Do you think the Green Bay Packers should draft Rondale Moore?
All right. So for those of you that don't know yet, I do go to Purdue. I'm a big Purdue football fan, Purdue basketball fan, and I've been watching Rondale Moore play his career at Purdue. So yeah, Blake said he had under 4.3. He had a 4.29 40-yard dash at his pro day last week. That is exactly what Tyreek Hill ran. And then he also had a 42.5-inch vertical, which is a very big deal for him as a wide receiver. And to compare that to Tyreek Hill had a 40.5-inch vertical, so 2 more inches for Rondale Moore. The only problem with Rondale Moore is he's 5'7" tall,
Yeah.
which is very short, but he's built. He's big. He's not a scrawny guy.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. And so now, if I think we should draft him, yes, but not in the first round.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's going to make it to the second round, but if he's there in the second round, the Packers need to draft Rondale Moore. I have said in the past that I do not like wide receivers going in the first round. I think there's just people who are much more important that you can get, and wide receivers are just because they're the best wide receiver in college does not always translate over. There's the generational guys, obviously, but A lot of wide receivers go in later rounds. Devontae Adams was not a first round pick, not even close. And so yeah, if he's available in the second round, I think the Packers should get him. Before his pro day, he was projected to be like one of the last few picks in the first round or early second round. After his pro day, he's now projected to be middle first round. So no, I don't think he's going to be there. And no, I don't think the Packers should get him in the first round.
Okay, that's interesting. So from the mocks that I've seen, I feel like he wouldn't go in the middle first. I'd say like probably end of first still.
I saw him at 21 today.
Okay. Because I'd say firmly there's probably like 4 receivers that are better prospects. I would say that's Smith. So Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and then Rashad Bateman. I would say are probably certainly over him. There's a case for Kadarius Toney. They're pretty similar style and like that they're smaller, more shifty guys. And then there's some other names in there too, but I'm with you on if we could get him in the second round, maybe we would have to I think we'd have to trade up.
I think I was thinking about that. I would be okay to trading up like to an earlier spot in the second round if he's still there, but that's something we do on draft day. That's not something we go ahead of time. And if there's so you just named 4 receivers. If 2 of them are still available, like then don't trade up yet till one of them's gone, obviously, because they're all good receivers. We do need a receiver.
Those top 3, not including Bateman, will all go in the top 20, I'd imagine. Like
I think Smith's going to go top 10 probably.
Yeah, I'm sure one of them is going to go like top 10, top 12. Dolphins will be probably at the minimum of the first team to pick a receiver. So if maybe like a team like the Patriots that's known to trade back, or the Vikings, they're in the middle of the second round, Chargers too, and maybe they want to get more draft capital and we trade like a 4th next year or one of our additional 4ths this year and our second and move up like 15 spots in the second and Moore was there, I would be on board for that. I doubt he would get to, what is it, like pick like 61 or something?
He would not get to our pick in the second round. He won't get it.
Most likely not. And so talking about the scheme fit with him, so he can definitely play the slot. But the role that I think would be interesting would be that Tyler Ervin role where he's –
okay.
So Tyler Ervin,
he's
like our running back receiver type guy where he'll take jet sweeps, he'll take push passes. He can carry the ball, although he has like under 20 career carries. I feel like Rondale could too. Like he's built, like he obviously is not going to be running between the tackles behind a fullback or anything like that. But like if they had him in the backfield, they could use him similar to how Randall Cobb was used, if you remember with Mike McCarthy, where they would put him in the backfield as a running back and a shotgun, and they'd split him out wide after that. So that way there's like a linebacker or a safety on him. And I think that's where he would be game breaking in the sense that he is insanely fast. We have MVS, but has some consistency issues. And Rondale Moore can break tackles pretty easily. Like
there's a famous clip of that against Ohio State.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this man killed Ohio State for years, breaking tackles and the such. So I think on those jet sweeps, push passes, screens, he would dominate. And Tavon Austin did some of that last year for us too. Doesn't look like he'll be back, but I think Rondale Moore would fit in that sense. Of the offense.
So Rondale Moore, he really only had a full season his freshman year at Purdue because he got injured and then he got injured again during the shortened season. Well, first he opted out, then he came back, but he got injured. So he didn't play too much. Just once he was healthy, he wanted to stay healthy. But his freshman year, he did have over 20 carries.
Okay, so.
And he averaged 10 yards a carry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure because every time he touches the ball, it's like a chance of.
Yeah, well, that isn't – but he did – he had 200 – he had over 200 rush yards, and then he had over 1,200 reception yards, 14 touchdowns his freshman year combined for rushing and receiving. So I didn't think about that, but I do like that where he could be a jet sweep kind of guy, a guy you just kind of like shuffle past the ball to, and then he does the work.
Because right now I think what the Packers are missing is that one explosive guy where you just get him the ball in space and he can make a play without everything having to go perfectly right. Like – you don't really have to scheme him up where he gets wide open. You can kind of just get him the ball and watch him make a play.
Like he'll find the hole. If something's not open, he'll know, all right, I'm going to go. He's not going to just run into the guy.
No, he's definitely good with the ball in his hands. And like right now, like MVS, he averages over 20 yards a catch, which is just like mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think he
Overall,
was top. He was easily top 3 in the league. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, for yards per
For a
reception.
while, he was number 1 during the season for yards per reception.
But he's more of a guy that's like he can only really go deep. I feel like Moore could be used in like the intermediate routes, in like short routes too. With
Moore's
like,
a lot more elusive than MVS, I'd say. You
yeah,
know,
like agility.
MVS is going to burn everyone on a streak, but Moore's going to burn you. He's really good off the line. Like he can run slants. He can.
Yeah, no, he can run slants. Crossing routes would be really nice with him too. He can be a huge asset for us. First round would be a little rich for my liking. I think there's probably more bigger needs in either of the trenches.
Secondary. Or just a defensive guy, honestly.
Yeah, whether they want to get like a third safety, nickel corner, another outside corner, maybe even an inside linebacker. There's a lot of them, but Rondale Moore would be exciting for this offense. And we've had really good history with drafting receivers in the second round. Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Devontae Adams. I think
that's a good list. That's a good list that people want to be a part of. That's a good list.
Yeah, that's 4 right there. We don't need the first rounders. Just give them to us in the second. We'll make them work.
The last 2 offensive skill positions we took in the first round were Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I think overall consensus on this is the Packers should draft Rondale Moore in the second round. Whether that's trading up to get him or if he magically falls into our lap, he would be a huge addition. Just overall explosiveness, getting the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker.
And hopefully we hear more about that interview that he has with the Packers.
Yeah, and
what they think of him.
Exactly. And now moving back to the defense. So this guy, we had him on our team. He had some injury issues with us, but when he was healthy, he was insane. So he usually played slot corner for us. His first year as a rookie, he had 6 interceptions. He started 7 games. And then his next year, he only was there for 3 games injured. The year after that, he was there for 16 games, only started 1. We let him go, even though he flashed potential. And then he popped off on the Chargers. Yeah. Went to 2 Pro Bowls, looked really, really good. He hasn't been as good as he was like in his prime the last few years, but he's still been a solid corner. Maybe he's lost half a step, you could say. But what are your thoughts on rekindling the relationship with Casey Hayward, bringing him back into our secondary?
I would love it because obviously I've already said I want more secondary for the Packers. I like what we got, but we need one more guy, and this qualifies as the guy. And if we brought in Casey Hayward, we could move Shannon Sullivan to like our secondary nickel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so yeah, as you said, right when he left the Packers, it was his next 2 years. He was a Pro Bowler. So, that kind of sucks for us, but it is what it is. He did good. And he has 9 years he's been in the league now. A couple of those years he was injured. 1 year he didn't play 3 games, but he has 23 career interceptions, which is a lot of interceptions. That's really good. That means he's being consistent most of the time. And I think he can get some picks for us. He can definitely cause commotion back there. And yeah, I really want to get Casey Hayward. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm all aboard this train. So he would be 32. So he's on the wrong side of 30, but with the positive of that is that I don't think he would be super expensive. Like, especially in the market, we've seen most corners, like the top end corners, are going for above 10. But those are guys getting their first contract off of being rookies. So they're like supposed to be entering their prime.
They're not 32 years old.
Exactly. They're like 26, 27, maybe 28 at the latest. So they're like, this is their biggest contract they're getting, and they're in their prime. I think Hayward, if we could move him back to nickel, would be sick. But also, we know King has history with being injured. And Hayward would not be the worst guy where, okay, say Kevin King gets injured, Hayward, we had you in the slot, but we can push you back outside. Like that
I think he'd do fine.
would be awesome. And then if they also maybe wanted to transition him to more of like a safety role, so we know like Will Redmond was a guy who was getting snaps as a safety in the playoffs and during the regular season. I know they had Raven Green as like the inside linebacker guy, but like Will Redmond was like the third safety in like a dime package or a quarters package. If they wanted Hayward to play maybe that role too, and he was maybe not in as much, but overall, like just the versatility he would add would be insane. And I don't think he would be that much. Like he could get a deal similar to Kevin King, hopefully.
I think he's 4 to 6 mil, honestly.
Yeah. Like
I really don't think he's more than 6 mil. He might even be less.
Yeah, he really might be. And salary cap would be kind of the issue because we don't really have much money. We signed Aaron Jones, we signed Marcedes Lewis, Kevin King, but there's still a way we can create some cap.
There is.
Restructuring Aaron Rodgers. I believe they can extend Zadarius and Devontae Adams and save maybe it's next year they would save money, but there's still ways they can get around like restructuring to create some cap space. If they wanted to do void years like they did for King, where they're kind of like, all right, we know the cap's going to explode in the next few years when stadiums come back. There's another game. There's a 17th.
They did just add a 17th game. They did.
So basically, the NFL is saying like, all right, we're going to have a lot more revenue. And they can push that down the road and say, all right, we have a really good team now. Casey Hayward would be a pretty huge addition. Now, I'm not saying Casey Hayward's like this great cornerback that he once was. I don't think he is.
He's past his prime.
Yeah, but he'd still be a really solid number 2, and he'd be a great number 3 in my mind. And I guess he would have some familiarity with our team. It's been a few years, but Rodgers was on the team then. There's still other guys that were on the team in his last year, which was 2015 with us. So there would be that familiarity, and I don't know. I think he would be an awesome addition. Again, not that expensive.
Yeah.
And it would
Which is what we're going for right now.
Yeah, we can't really break the bank for these like young guys that want huge contracts. And I think too, it would help with the draft in the sense that maybe they wouldn't have to take a first or second rounder or a third rounder on a corner, and they could maybe say, all right, we like this guy in the 5th or 6th round that we want to develop for a couple years.
Yeah, someone who's not coming in right away. Someone who's going to sit a couple of years, learn the new system, and then come in when they're ready.
Yeah, maybe they're just like an athletic specimen and not the most technically sound. They can just learn behind them and not be forced to get too many snaps, whereas if they did take a guy in the 1st or 2nd or 3rd round, like that guy would probably have higher expectations and, get more reps in that sense. So that way we could focus more on O-line, D-line, receiver, other positions of need.
Yeah, so obviously we're both on the same page. Bring Casey Hayward back for cheap would be phenomenal for the Green Bay Packers. It's another weapon in that secondary that's already solid, and that could be what gets us over that hump that we've been stuck on the next 2 years. That could be the piece right there. We're looking for that piece, and maybe that's it.
Come back. Please. You can blame it on Ted Thompson that we didn't sign you. Please. But that's going to wrap up this episode of our Packers Weekly discussion. Make sure to drop a comment what you think about the Kevin King signing. Should we draft Rondale Moore? And then should we bring back Casey Hayward? Maybe form a solid, an even better secondary than I think we already have. But thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in next week.